I not ready?
You are so ready, and I'm here to remind you that you are ready.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
so Nook Sanchez and I have agreed to join this morning to address the section in A Course in Miracles entitled The Obstacles to Peace. And we recognize that there are many teachers, wonderful teachers, who have unpacked this. And yet, through some discernment, we're seeing that a very crucial component part is missing. And of course, we don't see what we don't want to see, but it is unequivocally and glaringly there for all to see it who want to see it. So we want to bring this video forward. It's a large section. And we were talking about, do we want to just do it all at once? But I think it's important to read it. And Sis and I have a habit, as of any of you that are following the workbook lessons, to go off on some pretty deep tangents that are helpful. And we don't want to hold back because of time. So we want to give this the best and the clearest, be the clearest transparencies for Christ's mind that we can, out of our love for the Course and for Jesus and for all of you. So I think what I'll do, or will do, is go through each section, and then I'll pause, and then we can edit it and perhaps make 4 sections to this video through editing. That's probably the way we'll go. So it will all be assembled together. You can watch it all together, but we're going to make it so that if it goes too long, there's places where you can pause and come back and pick it up again.
So are we having coffee and snacks?
Well, I've had my breakfast and I have my tea, and I'm hopefully going to make it through to the just before lunch. It's 9:45 a.m.
Well, I read somewhere in the Course that the miracle actually collapses time.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
maybe we
great.
could, we could invoke the miracle, right?
Yes. We'll be done by 10:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think before we even get started, Sis and I wanted to flesh out the word peace, because you're not really going to care about this chapter unless you understand what peace is and why should I care. The ego has its version of everything. It has its God, it has its love, it has its truth according to the ego. Well, it has its own version of peace. And we learn before we on the start out on the awakening journey that mythical me, which is what we call the ego body concept, the one on your driver's license and birth certificate, that one, peace means that you are undisturbed temporarily, that you're not under duress, or you're not experiencing conflict. Somehow you've been able to rest back and the mind is in a state of somewhat uh, harmony. You're feeling a bit of harmony or non-conflict, unconflicted. That's it. And it's temporary, because we all know that, again, something's going to come along and trigger us, and we'll be off running to the races trying to look at illusions and fix them.
Mm,
So that is not the peace that the Course and Jesus is talking about.
right. So sis, the peace that the human mind believes is peace is dependent on circumstances or situations, right? It's dependent on others. It's dependent on getting the ego body needs met. Yeah.
Right.
And they're they're all illusions. So they can change in a heartbeat. And so therefore we can lose our peace.
Right.
I think the peace that Jesus is speaking about here, the obstacles to peace, is the peace of God, the peace that transcends illusions, and it is the core of our true self, the holy self. the one self united with our Creator. So this is the peace that we carry deep within us, in our mind, but is obscured by mythical me, right? Totally obscured by mythical me. And what mythical, you know, like you said, mythical me is the term you and I use to depict the ego. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And its piece, yeah, what you're saying to help simplify that even more, the ego's piece is based upon it's circumstantial,
Yeah.
external, right? External conditions allow the ego mind to believe that it is in a state of peace, and yet what we are as the Christ is peace itself. It's always within. But while we believe that we're mythical me and blocking the knowledge that we are the Christ, we are constantly seeking outside of ourselves. And of course, it's seek and don't find, but trying to manipulate and control outer illusions so that we can experience what the ego thinks is peace.
Good. And I think it might be a good place here to talk about the peace of God, all right? Because the first 20 something years of studying A Course in Miracles and trying to live it, I really didn't know what the peace of God was. Neither did you, right?
Right. It was just
okay, we had a concept. We you know, we intellectually we had a concept about it, but as we've unlearnt or unselfed the ego or mythical me, that the peace of God has revealed itself in our experience more so.
right.
And just so that you are on the same page, we're all on the same page here. The peace of God is the love of God. It is the love of God. And that means that it's eternal, it's changeless, right? It is the love of God. It also is our incorruptible innocence. It's the guiltlessness that the Course keeps pointing to, which is our natural state. Yeah.
Right.
So when we read this section, the obstacles to peace, it really is the obstacles to love, which translates to the obstacles, the four major obstacles that we have to that block the awareness of our holy self in every moment. You know, that's how big it is. It's not just it. If only I'd known that, you know, that first 20 years, it would have changed everything for me. But now I know it. So there is no time. So it's fine. It's perfect. So it's the obstacles to the awareness of what we are eternally and changelessly. I mean, that's huge.
Right.
That is absolutely huge.
Can I read something really quick? Because I want to really get that. Why is the mind of God peace itself? Like, what I think before I was trying to ascribe the ego's definition of peace onto God. But that leaves room in our, whether we're aware of it or not, that God could sometimes be peaceful, but then God might lose his peace. And so we try to make God more human-like. That's the ego's God. But listen to this. This is out of chapter 26. It's just one paragraph, and it's out of the section called the borderland. I'm just going to read this first paragraph. And let's take this in, because this is the nature of God, and it gives us the why God is peace itself. It says, complexity is not of God. How could it be when all he knows is one? He knows of one creation, one reality, one truth, and but one Son. Nothing conflicts with oneness. How then could there be complexity in him? What is there to decide? For it is conflict that makes choice complex. The truth is simple. It is one without and opposite. And how could strife enter its simple presence and bring complexity where oneness is? The truth makes no decisions, for there is nothing to decide between.
That's a
And
key.
that's right. And only if,
Between.
sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go on. Sorry, sis, go.
And only if there were could choosing be a necessary step in the advance toward oneness. What is everything leaves room for nothing else. Therein's the peace of God, a singularity extending infinitely.
That's
Without
it.
opposite. Yeah.
That's complete guiltlessness, our incorruptible innocence, and therefore total fearlessness.
Yes.
Remember that fear is the opposite of love, but only one exists.
Yeah. Yep. There's the basis to rest in God. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so that's the peace that God is and we are as the Christ. The Christ and the Father are one in being. So that's our natural state. And if we were to actually feel that state, then the thought of separation and all the symbols, including mythical me, would dissolve in that awareness.
Oh, absolutely. Like the quote you've just read there.
Yeah.
We've and it's interesting for that first 20 years of reading The Obstacles to Peace and only getting a fraction of it, I felt through the human self-concept, the false self-concept, I felt that peace was static,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until a lot later in my development of trust that I realized, oh my God, it's the flip of that, the opposite of that.
Right.
Now I'm realizing that everything good occurs in that peace, the peace of God. All healing, all miracles, they always occur in the peace of God. So, of course, the more we sink or rest in the peace of God, the more active, not static, the more active we become as miracle workers.
Right.
Isn't that huge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sis. So with the tiny mad idea, the thought of separation is literally a plan to, I dare say, attack the state of peace, to disrupt it so that the mind could experience out of oneness billions of private body minds, all different, all able to see differences instead of sameness or oneness, and making decisions through judgment. So we needed to formulate obstacles in our mind to the peace of God and how we are in truth. And so Jesus has laid out 4 specific obstacles to peace and how to surmount them, or how they are surmounted. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, although we'll probably talk about this in the conclusion, but I'm going to say it now, is that I realized in reviewing the obstacles last night, after having not read them for a year or so, I realized that the 4 obstacles to peace, of course, are the obstacles to our awareness of our holy self. But not just that, those 4 obstacles to peace make up in its entirety the false self concept.
Yeah. You want to explain that a little bit? Because I drew a little, this is really bad, guys, and she's going to be mad because I didn't do a proper diagram. But
One of those stick figures again, sis.
this is my guy right here. The obstacles to peace, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you take those, they literally prop up a mythical me. You couldn't have mythical me without each of these obstacles to peace. So it's just a kind of a way to think about these, that the obstacles themselves give rise to like a concept of ourselves that is impossible, but that we have given our belief to.
Yeah, that's how big that is. That's why they need to be recognized and undone. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, sis. I like your diagram.
Will you put it in your book? I'm just kidding.
As is. Why
Yeah.
not? Let's just say this is Coreen's artwork.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
famous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, sis. So we haven't started reading yet, have we?
No, and there's one last point I want to make before we do.
Yeah.
And this is really amazing to me because Sis and I we were talking about the different ways that we've heard the obstacles of peace presented without any emphasis on holy relationship. And I was thinking to myself, I don't get that. I don't understand. And it's not a judgment. Like I literally, when I read it, I can't not see that the holy relationship is highlighted over and over and over again. And I thought, how is that possible? But I just learned something, that the FIP version of the obstacles to peace starts out with a sentence that says, as this peace expands from deep inside yourself to embrace all the sonship and give it rest, it will encounter many obstacles. That's the FIP.
So it says yourself singular.
Singular, yourself.
Okay.
Now I want you guys to listen to the COA version or Circle of Atonement's version and the sparkly edition. There may be others, probably the Urtext. Mm-hmm. But listen to this, how different this is. And listen to the first two words under the obstacles to peace. Your relationship is now a temple of healing, a place where all the weary ones can come and find rest. Here is the rest that waits for all after the journey, and it is brought nearer to all by your relationship. Now, here's that sentence again. As this peace expands from deep inside yourselves,
Plural.
to
Plural.
to
That's your holy relationship, right?
That's right. I mean, the first words were your relationship. So this is what he's referring to. And your relationship is brought nearer to all, right? As this peace expands from deep inside yourselves to embrace all the sonship and give it rest, it will encounter many obstacles. Some of them you will try to interpose. Others will seem to arise from elsewhere, from your brothers and from various aspects of the world outside. But peace will gently cover them, extending past, completely unhindered. So I'll just continue on now that we've made that point, because now that you recognize, start listening for the highlight of the relationship between you and your brother, a holy relationship. And again, a holy relationship is where two or more have gathered with a common goal or aim to join in perfect union through perfect forgiveness, to have an experience of union beyond bodies.
That's the key, sis.
That's it.
That's the key. It's not the special relationship.
No, that's the
insults bodies, right? And guilt and blame. Yeah.
That's right. The special relationship's whole objective or point is to see bodies, to objectify a brother as a body. Okay, so here we go. Paragraph 2. The extension of the Holy Spirit's purpose from your relationship to others to bring them gently in has already begun. This is the way in which he will bring means and goal in line. The peace he laid deep within both of you will quietly extend to every aspect of your lives, surrounding both of you with glowing happiness and the calm awareness of complete protection.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. There's a lot of that missing from the sparkly that I'm reading right now. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
This it's just beautiful language and it's literal. Okay, so complete protection, and you will carry its message of love and safety and freedom to everyone who draws nigh unto your temple, your relationship, where healing waits for him.
Thank you, sis, for saying, for being clear about when he uses the term your temple, which he does further as well. And in chapter 26, he uses it quite a bit as well. He's talking about the holy relationship.
And
Yeah.
that's that first line. Your relationship is now a temple of healing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So it's that invitation into that you've given the relationship over to the Holy Spirit to repurpose it from special to holy. So you and your brother or sister, it's not gender based, two or more gather with the goal, as I previously stated, to overlook bodies and to want and desire that felt experience of perfect union or oneness, which is the condition of creation and the kingdom of heaven. That's the truth of our identity. We are one son, an individuated expression, but yet one. So that's the goal, and that's the Holy Spirit's function, right? To free us from the belief of separation and bodies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, good, sis. There's so much on this. I mean, we could go for hours just on the relationship, on this part, on the
Okay.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And, for those who are watching that don't have any background on what Jesus is teaching about holy relationship, might just give a quick overview of what that is. It's not a special holy relationship, right? So, because in the human mind, we've got this thing about a relationship is exclusive. Yeah, two people get together and with their exclusive love, they have a holy relationship. No, it's not exclusive love. It's the opposite. It's inclusive. So as the relationship heals, this holy relationship, it becomes a beacon for the entire sonship. So the guiltlessness and the sinlessness that the relationship shares is it's like light going out into the darkness of all the split minds, and that light pierces that darkness and opens the hearts of anyone who is ready to receive its message that they too are sinless, guiltless, and innocent, And it's a huge thing. I mean, it's the biggest thing, holy relationship. It really, really is. And the other thing too with that is that we have to be ready for holy relationship, and Holy Spirit is the one that prepares us, and He's the one that brings us a holy relationship partner or partners, plural, because it can be with one other or two others or whatever. Like just from our experience, you and me, sis, here, practically speaking, we have a holy relationship. And we're also in holy relationship with my partner, Daniel, right? The three of us. But the human mind jumps immediately to what? Question mark.
How does
Oh,
that work? Yeah. They
right.
want to, yes, exactly.
Physical.
It doesn't fit into the box of the ego's definition of relationship, which is exclusivity.
That's right. And the body, all
Right.
right, saying it's sexual. Well, that in the advanced holy relationship, and I'm talking about advanced, uh, there's very there is no there is no physical relationship. It becomes a heart-centered relationship without the body's influence on it. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be a romantic relationship. Many holy relationships are successful because there's no romantic or body objectifying involved in it.
Right.
Right?
And they're totally opposite. And if the holy relationship's goal is union beyond bodies, the parties involved to that relationship forgive body identity and everything that the ego thought system would use for us to confirm bodies or want bodies. That doesn't enter into a holy relationship, or if it does, it gets forgiven very quickly. So it's not about bodies, while the special relationship is all about bodies and roles and relationship and etc.
Yeah, so, yeah, very good. It's to shore up the false self-concept, yeah, the body identity. And again, just to add another layer of clarity here, a holy relationship is where two or more people actually share a mutual devotion to God. What does that mean? Sorry if my puppy is barking in the background. Is that too loud?
No, not at all.
Okay. Sharing a mutual devotion to God at a practical level means that both people are willing to go through the process that Jesus outlines in a manual for teachers, which is called the development of trust, or the 6 stages of awakening, which really translate to the 6 stages of unselfing.
That's right.
Unselfing, which is undoing our addiction to pain and suffering, being separate, being a body. Yeah.
So you guys, if the mind wants separation because it values mythical me, it's not going to want to go through this unselfing process, and it wants its special relationships. And that's okay. We've all done it for lifetimes, but at some point, and my guess is that you've hit that point if you're listening to this video, that we've hit the wall. We recognize that we're under a law of seek and don't find, and we really want the answer. And the whole point of the course is to know thyself. And so it's to know yourself as one. And if we're one, then bodies don't enter into oneness. So this is that unselfing process of all the ways the body is the central figure and idol within the ego thought system. Everything hinges upon the thought of the body. So these obstacles to peace all center around, you'll see the body is the integral common denominator for each of the 4 obstacles. And are we willing to peel back the layers to discover ourselves as spirit and not bodies? So when we're at that point, then we lean in and begin this study. The mind has to be willing, and the sign that you're willing is that I want to see my brothers as sinless. I'm ready to see the face of Christ in my brother by overlooking the body, and that's by joining with the Holy Spirit and allowing that experience to occur. So at any rate,
thank you.
Yeah, are we am I on 3?
You might need to mark where you were before, sis.
Yeah, I have my pen here. Okay. All right. 3, you will not wait to give him this, for you will call to him and he will answer, recognizing in your call the call of God. And you will draw him in and give him rest as it was given you. All this will you do. But the peace that already lies deeply within must first expand and flow across the obstacles you place before it. This it will do, for nothing that is undertaken with the Holy Spirit remains unfinished. You can indeed be sure of nothing that you see outside you, but of this you can be sure. Our certainty in the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit asks that you offer him a resting place where you will rest in him. He answered you and entered your relationship. Would you not now return his graciousness and enter into a relationship with him? For it is he who offered your relationship the gift of holiness, without which it would have been forever impossible to appreciate each other. That's key.
Mm.
The gratitude you owe to him, he asks but that you receive for him. And when you look with gentle graciousness upon each other, you are beholding him, for you are looking where he is and not apart from you.
That's the face of Christ in each other.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
And this, one of the lessons of the Holy Spirit, one of the final lessons is full appreciation for every brother. And he touched on it that without giving the relationship over to the Holy Spirit, it would be forever impossible to appreciate your brother. Why? Because the relationship is special and you are seeing a body. And while you equate your brother with a body, you aren't appreciating him. It's actually an act of attack. And that word attack is not an overstatement. It's not unfitting. When you recognize that each one of us is right now an unlimited being, Christ, and then you attempt to take what cannot be limited and reduce it to a body suit under laws of aging, sickness, disease, and of course, inevitable death. Can we not feel into that? Wouldn't we want to be seen as what we are in truth with all the gifts of God? But yet we behold each other in an impossible situation as separate behind bodies and then with layers of judgment. We're literally crucifying each other by locating and identifying each other as a body. That is an attack, a thought. And so there's no appreciation in that thought. You've got to release your brothers from the body identity to behold the face of Christ. That's the game. That's the goal.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you cannot see the Holy Spirit, but you can see your brothers truly.
Because your brother, I just want to say this, is that especially in holy relationship, it happens daily, right? Is that you hear the Holy Spirit come through your brother.
Yes.
Right?
All the time.
All the time. All the time. Yeah. Thank you. So you cannot see the Holy Spirit, sis, right? But you can see your brothers truly.
Yeah. And the light in them will show all that you need to see. When the peace in you has been extended to encompass everyone, the Holy Spirit's function here will be accomplished. What need is there for seeing then? When God has taken the last step himself, the Holy Spirit will gather all your thanks and gratitude that you have offered him and lay them gently before his Creator in the name of his most holy Son. And the Father will accept them in his name. What need is there of seeing in the presence of his gratitude? When God takes that final step, that is the end of perception because the mind is knowing that it is one. No longer looking into a void of illusory symbols of separation. Okay. Anything you want to say on that before we start on the first obstacle?
Not, well, this holy relationship precedes undoing the obstacles to peace, which are the obstacles to knowing our one shared holy self. Yeah. Just wanted to say that again for the 10th time. Okay.
He's talking about a relationship who shares a common goal of unselfing.
Unselfing. Yeah. Yep, it's the end of the ego. That's it. It's the end of separate minds or separate beliefs, and the end of body identity. Yeah.
I just heard him. The goal of the holy relationship is the peace of God.
Mm.
It is a mind that rests in oneness without opposite, without conflict, without thoughts of separation and differences. So that's the goal of every holy relationship.
Beautiful.
Piece that we're about to talk about, how the ego tries to defend against peace.
Right.
Okay.
And when you say that, how the, sorry, sis, I'm hearing something. So,
yeah, please.
okay.
It's gold.
You just said something important. How the ego tries to, did you say sabotage? Right.
Well, to get rid of it, to defend
To get
against.
rid of peace. That's right. How the ego tries to get rid of peace. I need to say this. All right. So, so
Yeah.
here I am on the spiritual journey, and I'm talking to you, sis, and I'm saying to you, I'm really pissed and triggered because the ego in my mind is trying to get rid of peace.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed about that.
Who's pissed?
Thank you. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
So, when we all get caught in this, I do a lot too, in not catching it in the mind straight away and then letting it tear off and cause havoc. It is that we can't say my ego.
Yeah, thank
Right?
you.
There is no my ego. The one that's saying my ego is the ego itself. It's mythical me. It's the body identity. So we can't say, okay, this morning I experienced an ego backlash and I'm still recovering from it.
Right.
Well, the I that experienced the ego backlash is the ego, right?
Yes.
We can't say, oh, I feel guilty and filled with worthlessness or, self-judgment, self-blame, because the ego tempted me to do such and such. Well, the one that feels guilty, the one that is still addicted to self-blame and worthlessness is the ego. That one is not you.
A great test, guys, is, did Christ say that? Did Christ say, oh, I had an ego backlash, but I'm trying to recover?
Did he say that on the cross?
Yeah, right. Bad day. Yeah, that's the test right there. Does the Christ say this? Because the ego would have it piecemealed. The problem that you're experiencing, the emotions that it's arising, any solution, that word solution, to a real problem, anything that the mind's doing to solve a problem is the ego. And the one that's talking about it is the ego. It's all one and the same illusion. And you are none of those.
There's
That's
great peace in that, isn't there?
that's back to the peace of God, right?
Right. Then we have to ask the question, which is, well, if I'm none of those things, and if I'm not that, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
What am I? That section in the course. What am I? When we get to that point to ask that question, what am I, with all of our heart and soul, that is when Holy Spirit can swoop in and answer it for us.
That's right. Good. Yeah. What we are will tell us of it ourselves, of itself. We will be told what we are.
Yeah.
If there's any the mind trying to tell you what you are, that's the ego also. It's an impartation. You know that that's the answer when it's given. You receive it.
Thank you, sis.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a
Yeah.
That's a fine line of a way that the ego it hides itself. tries to split itself off into different parts.
Yeah, go undercover.
Yes. All right. So the first obstacle is the desire to get rid of it, to get rid of peace.
Peace.
The first obstacle that peace must flow across is your desire to get rid of it, for it cannot extend unless you keep it. And by that, it means peace is already what you are. It is within you, but you've got to maintain that awareness that it's within you and let it flow out from you to the sonship. So if you're busy trying to think you can get rid of it, then how will it ever extend?
Right.
So,
Just from a practical point of view, how do we get rid of peace? It's the self-concept addiction to drama. All right. It needs problems. It needs health problems. It needs relationship conflict. It needs, financial issues. It needs all kinds of drama to keep rejecting peace, the peace of God. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
It needs the belief in humanhood and all that comes along with it, good and bad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for peace cannot extend unless you, I would say, first keep it, right?
Mm.
You are the center from which peace radiates outward to
Mm.
call the others in. You are peace's home, its tranquil dwelling place, from which it gently reaches out, but never leaving you.
Mm.
If you would make peace homeless, how can it abide within the Son of God? If it would spread across the whole creation, it must begin with you,
Mm.
and from you reach to everyone who calls and bring him rest by joining you. So, what is there to join with you if you've gotten rid of peace? You've made peace homeless. Of course, you could never do this, but that's the first obstacle. I'm not at peace. There's nothing within me peaceful that you can join with. That's hiding the ball.
Beautiful. That's also blocking true communication.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why would you want peace homeless? What do you think that it must dispossess to dwell in you? What seems to be the cost you are so unwilling to pay? The little barriers of sand still stand between you.
Barrier of sand is the body
Yep,
identity, right?
that's right. Here we go. He
Yep.
starts in with the body, the little barriers of sand. Would you reinforce them now? You are not asked to let them go for yourselves alone. Christ asks it of you for himself. He would bring peace to everyone. And how can he do this except through you? Would you let a little bank of sand, a wall of dust, a tiny seeming barrier stand between your brothers and salvation? And yet it is this little remnant of attack you cherish still against each other that is the first obstacle the peace in you encounters in its going forth. This little wall of hatred would still oppose the will of God and keep it limited. The
Remembering that the truth, just to interject here, remembering the truth of our being, the holy self, is the will of God. Yeah.
Right. So we're opposing our own will when we're opposing God's will, and we're
Yeah.
standing for a will that doesn't exist and we think is ours.
Yeah.
We think we want the body. This little wall of hatred would still oppose the will of God and keep the will of God limited.
Mm.
The Holy Spirit's purpose rests in peace within you.
Mm.
Yet you are still unwilling to let it join you wholly. You still oppose the will of God just by a little, and that little is a limit you would place upon the whole. God's will is one, not many. It has no opposition, for there is none beside it. Okay, so body is an attack on the will of God, not one, but many, not unified, but separate, not the same, different, right? Okay. What you would still contain behind your little barrier and keep separate from each other seems mightier than the universe, for it would hold back the universe and its creator. The little wall would hide the purpose of heaven and keep it from heaven. Would you thrust salvation away from the giver of salvation? For such have you become. Peace could no more depart from you than from God. Fear not this little obstacle. It cannot contain the will of God. Peace will flow across it and join you without hindrance. Salvation cannot be withheld from you. It is your purpose. You cannot will apart from this. You have no purpose apart from each other or apart from the one you asked the Holy Spirit to share with you. The little wall will fall away so quietly beneath the wings of peace, for it will send its messengers from you to all the world, and barriers will fall away before their coming as easily as those which you would interpose will be surmounted. To overcome the world is no more difficult than to surmount your little wall, the
That's
body.
body, right? Yeah.
For in the miracle of your relationship, without this barrier, is every miracle contained.
Wow. Can you read that again, please?
I'm going to read the last two. To overcome the world is no more difficult than to surmount your body. For in the miracle of your relationship, without this body, is every miracle contained. That is union without bodies there to interfere. In that union beyond bodies is every miracle contained that you will extend. This is what we fight against when we identify ourselves as a body. Take the body out of the equation completely, joining with another in that sense of union, and you now are walking as Jesus, a miracle worker, an extension of the power and the presence and love of God.
Mm. Mm.
This is how important. This is why it's the holy relationship, guys. There it is.
Well, it's a mandatory. It's the mandatory bridge to overcoming the obstacles to peace.
Yes.
That's it. You know, we can't do it without the holy relationship.
Right.
It's possible because we'll still be defending against peace. Yeah.
The holy relationship is the means to undo body identity.
Yes. And that's why, you know, there are quite a few masters who reached awakening in the dream itself, but they didn't overcome the body.
Right.
They allowed or they believed that the body could kill them.
I just heard something recently. It was very interesting and very helpful because I always wondered about that. But I think it's that teaching that the body is housing a spiritual being.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like spirit is inhabiting the body. That thought still makes the body real. And if the body has any reality in the mind will suffer the event we call death and reincarnate. The mind that is free of all body identification knows itself and walks out of the dream or awakens from the dream, not through death. by the translation of the mind.
Yeah. It reaches that place where it doesn't, well, its innocence is known and embodied, so to speak, or anchored, and therefore it leaves the body unharmed, right? So it what Jesus calls laying the body aside. We don't lay the body aside through old age or disease or
Yeah.
what. We lay it aside, and as we lay it aside, we're leaving an image or an imprint of non-attack, of innocence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For everyone. Yeah.
That's a whole nother week-long subject for myself.
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
Next week.
All
Yeah.
right. There is no order of difficulty in miracles, for they are.
Where'd that come from? Hang on a minute. Is that the first miracle principle? I'm just being funny.
Yes,
Sorry.
it is.
Yeah.
There is no order of difficulty in miracles, for they are all the same. Each is a gentle winning over from the appeal of guilt to the appeal of love. How can this fail to be accomplished wherever it is undertaken? Guilt can raise no real barriers against it. And all that seems to stand between you must fall away because of the appeal you answered. This is the appeal of love.
Mm.
And to love one another is to overlook a brother or sister as a body. That is full appreciation. Give them back their inheritance as an unlimited spiritual Christ, the Son of God, not a mythical me. The grandeur of the Christ into a myth. That act right there. We want to forgive that. Okay, and all that seems to stand between you must fall away because of the appeal you answered. And from you who answered, he who answered you would call. His home is in your holy relationship. Do not attempt to stand between him and his holy purpose, for it is yours. But let him quietly extend the miracle of your relationship to everyone contained in it as it was given.
That's the healing of the sonship in its entirety, the split mind, right?
Yes.
It's given to the holy relationship. That's the holy relationship's purpose.
That's right.
Yeah.
And all that want the light will see it in that relationship and be called to it. That's the inclusivity, not exclusive as the ego and its special relationship, holy relationship calls the entire sonship to it, to join in union. There is a hush in heaven, a happy expectancy, a little pause of gladness and acknowledgement of the journey's end. For heaven knows you well, as you know heaven. No illusions stand between you. Look not upon the little wall of shadows. The sun has risen over it. How can a shadow keep you from the sun? No more can you be kept by shadows from the light in which illusions end. Every miracle is but the end of an illusion.
Love that.
Such was the journey, such its ending. And in the goal of truth, which you accepted, must all illusions end. The little insane wish to get rid of him whom you invited in and push him out must produce conflict.
Talking about the Holy Spirit, right?
Right.
And the Holy Spirit in your brother. That's where you really get to know the Holy Spirit, is through the face of Christ. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, we invited him in, and then when there's an unselfing, there's a knee-jerk reaction to want to push the Holy Spirit out and push your brother away. As you look upon the world, this little wish, uprooted and floating aimlessly, can land and settle briefly upon anything. For it has no purpose now. Before the Holy Spirit entered to abide with you, it seemed to have a mighty purpose, the fixed and unchangeable dedication to sin and its results. Now it is aimless, wandering pointlessly, causing no more than tiny interruptions in love's appeal. So there'll be that still a temptation to want bodies or to see bodies, but in light of the aim of the relationship, who answered the appeal of love and not the appeal or the call for guilt, it can't find a home. It can't gain traction. Neither mind wants it nor will tolerate it and will help the other mind see it and forgive it. It just can't remain in the home where the Holy Spirit is, in your temple.
Which reminds me, thank you, sis, which is someone asked me the other day about holy relationship with you, and with Daniel, and just asked, like, what would you say if you could just summarize it in one sentence? What would you say is the priority of, in your holy relationship? And that came out quickly for me, which was that, we protect each other's innocence. That, think about that. In a special relationship, that is just not on to protect each other's innocence. Oh my God. No, in a special relationship, you want
projecting all your stuff onto them, like, yeah.
Right. So that's it. That's the number one practice. And that's what he's talking about here, right?
Yeah. You could say the special relationship is dedicated to guilt, and the holy relationship is dedicated to innocence. Yeah.
Changeless innocence, eternal changeless innocence, which is sinlessness, right? So we get to know there is no sin. And then finally, we get to see we are not sin. Because while we believe we are a body, a human, yeah, and that we can be attacked, where, and this is unconscious till it's brought to conscious awareness, we will believe we are sin incarnate. And that's why we expect punishment. So we expect that, there's going to be disease, there's going to be aging, there's going to be pain, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be deprivation. We expect it. And we continually, well, through the self-image, we're continually trying to manipulate and control with agendas to protect ourselves from what we expect.
That's right. Even what we want. We want the self-attack. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense to the mind on the surface, but underneath it, we really want to stand there and tell our brothers, behold me, brother, at your hand I die. That's all sickness, all pain, and every death. That's proof that the separation has occurred, in fact, and that we are, in fact, guilty and deserving of punishment.
That's why we accept death, right?
Yes, which is
and a choice. We project it onto God and say, well, God's bringing us home.
Sorry. Yeah.
Death is heaven, and heaven is death. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Yeah. Sis and I'll go off in long time, but okay, let's come back. We're on paragraph 9 in the COA version. It says, this feather of a wish, this tiny illusion, I love these words, this microscopic remnant of the belief in sin is all that remains of what once seemed to be the world. It is no longer an unrelenting barrier to peace. Its pointless wandering makes its results appear to be more erratic and unpredictable than before, but what could be more unstable than a tightly organized delusional system? Its seeming stability is its pervasive weakness, which extends to everything. The variability which the little remnant induces merely indicates its limited results. He's talking about the body and its changing conditions. Good days, bad days, healthy days, sick days. But in God, nothing changes in God. Remember how we started out. God is one, without change, without opposition. That's home. That is what we are.
You know, sis, you've just brought up something here is that some might ask, well, what about the emotional body? That's real. You're talking about the physical body. Mm-hmm. But the truth here is that the human emotional body is inextricably entwined with the physical body and with the misidentification of being a body, right? Mm-hmm. So the emotional body is the ego. It is mythical me. Because our true Christ self, holy self, can only really experience one emotion, and that is joy,
right?
Which contains love, happiness, extension, union. It's just constant.
Yes, changeless joy.
Well, the ego is saying, "Oh, how boring."
Yeah.
So where are the problems?
The mind fell asleep, and the wall was the body and the mind to try and hide behind to feel separation. But along with that body came its five senses, all that they report, all the thoughts that it thinks, and all the emotions as a result of those thoughts. It's all one and the same. That is the ego. That is mythical me. Its senses, its thoughts, its emotions, its body.
That's right. Everything. And of course, what it seeks through the emotional body and what it seeks through the five physical senses is ultimately it seeks to prove to us that we are the body deserving of death.
I love how you used to teach when you say, I am angry, right? You feeling angry, and then the words come out, I am angry. Well, there you go. That's how we're identifying through emotions to a self that we are not. And somehow we think there's I and anger. It's one and the same. The Christ never said that. Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I knew this 40 years ago.
Oh, man.
Oh, Lord. I have wings on now. And halo.
Oh, you got one, sissy.
Thank you.
All right. Paragraph 10. How mighty can a little feather be before the great wings of truth? Can it oppose an eagle's flight or hinder the advance of summer? Can it interfere with the effects of summer's sun upon a garden covered by the snow? See but how easily this little wisp is lifted up and carried away, never to return, and part with it in gladness, not regret, for it is nothing in itself and stood for nothing when you had greater faith in its protection. Would you not rather greet the summer sun than fix your gaze upon a disappearing snowflake and shiver in remembrance of the winter's cold? The messengers of love. The attraction of guilt produces fear of love, for love would never look on guilt at all. That's the mind that is attracted to separation and itself as a body is terrified of love, because in the presence of love, the guilt and fear or ego would dissolve. It would be self-seen as a lie and an illusion and would vanish. It is the nature of love to look upon only the truth, for there it sees itself, with which it would unite in holy union and completion.
Just to help with that too, I've noticed that when Jesus uses the word truth, frequently you can substitute it for the Christ I am. Yeah.
So it is the nature of love to look upon only the Christ, for there it sees itself with which it would unite in holy union and completion.
That's a holy relationship right there.
That's
Thank you.
it. To overlook a brother's body, be willing to behold the truth, the Christ in your brother. Love looks upon itself, and there's an immediate joining, and the mind experiences, oh, separation is an impossibility. I am not the body. And this direct felt experience proves to the mind that it was never a body. So this is why if we want bodies, oh Lord, the face of Christ and love is the enemy. God as love is the enemy. The Christ in your brother is the enemy. As love must look past fear, so must fear see love not. For love contains the end of guilt as surely as fear depends on it. Love is attracted only to love. Overlooking guilt completely, it sees no fear. Being wholly without attack, it could not be afraid. Fear is attracted to what love sees not, and each believes that what the other looks upon does not exist. Fear looks on guilt with just the same devotion that love looks on itself. And each has messengers which it sends forth, and which return to it with messages written in the language in which their going forth was asked. Love's messengers are gently sent, and return with messages of love and gentleness. The messengers of fear are harshly ordered to seek out guilt and cherish every scrap of evil and sin that they can find, losing none of them on pain of death, and laying them respectfully before their Lord and Master. You know, and your messengers are your senses, and they will perceive and bring you back evidence of what it is that you wanted. So either the Holy Spirit as love is sending messengers out to behold the Christ in the face of your brother and his loveliness so that you could join, or the ego is running and sending out its messengers to find fault in your brother and judgment and the aim of all of its projections, right?
That's right, sis. Yeah. Yeah, because what's actually happening there is mythical me, ego, never sees reality
Right.
that's present here now. What it sees is its own pre-recorded past,
Oh, good. Yeah.
right? So that's where shadow figures come in that Jesus speaks about here in a special relationships. And so we're never really seeing anyone as they are while we're looking through the lens or the filter of mythical me. We're seeing our past and we're seeing our wish to be, or the ego's wish to be unfairly treated. We're breathing life into it every moment because we're superimposing that past that never really occurred, but we're superimposing that past over our brothers, sisters in the world as we know it now, right? Which feeds into what you've just said.
And it all comes back, it rests on moment to moment. We're answering the question, what am I or who am I?
Yeah.
And if you are mythical me, then you have the ego running and it's sending messengers of guilt and attacking all that it looks upon. Or I am Christ and you're looking with the Holy Spirit and sending messengers of love and finding what it is that you're sending messengers to find. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks, sis.
Yeah, thank you.
So perception cannot obey. That's good. Perception's neutral. Perception obeys whichever one is guiding it. So perception cannot obey two masters, each asking for messages of different things in different languages. What fear would feed upon, love overlooks. What fear demands, love cannot even see. The fierce attraction that guilt holds for fear is wholly absent from love's gentle perception. What love would look upon is meaningless to fear and quite invisible. Relationships in this world are the result of how the world is seen. That what you were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And this and this depends on which emotion was called on to send its messengers to look upon it and to return with word of what they saw. Fear's messengers are trained through terror, and they tremble when their master calls upon them to serve him. For fear is merciless even to its friends. Its messengers steal guiltily away in hungry search of guilt, for they are kept cold and starving and made very vicious by their master, who allows them to feast only upon what they return to him. No little shred of guilt escapes their hungry eyes, and in their savage search for sin, they pounce on any living thing they see and carry it screaming to their master to be devoured.
Wow.
Yeah. But honestly, guys, when you're out there and your eyes behold set light upon a brother, and you immediately use your past to determine who or what she is or he is to you, and you've got them imprisoned within a body, you know thousands of snapshot judgments are made, and none of those are the truth about that one. The Christ, God's view, is the only truth of that one. So every judgment that you make is these hungry scraps, and what is it feeding? Our need for the guilt that props up mythical me. You can be going and having a good day, and then you think all of a sudden, something bad happened or I was triggered. No, mythical me needed a hit. It needed a dose of guilt. And so the messengers went out and got what it wanted and brought it back to the mind. And the mind is having a feast on all of the scraps and the judgments and the unfairly treated that it went to go find. And none of it's true.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, these are really, you can't just toss that out. Either he put it in that language and described it such for a reason.
Mm.
Send not these savage messengers into the world to feast upon it and to prey upon reality, for they will bring you word of bones and skin and flesh. They have been taught to seek for the corruptible and to return with gorges filled with things decayed and rotting. To them, such things are beautiful because they seem to allay their savage pangs of hunger. For they are frantic with the pain of fear and would avert the punishment of him who sends them forth by offering him what they hold dear.
That's the ego, right?
That's it. Yeah. Can you see, you can feel the servitude to the ego. Go back, go out, find your brother's guilt, bring it back to the ego. All right. None of this is going on in truth, guys, but we just got to look at when we identify as a body, what's really going on down in the bunker. The Holy Spirit has given you love's messengers to send instead of those you trained through fear. They are as eager to return to you what they hold dear as are the others. If you send them, love's messengers, forth, they will see only the blameless and the beautiful, the gentle and the kind. They will be as careful to let no little act of charity, no tiny expression of forgiveness, no little breath of love escape their notice. And they will return with all the happy things they found to share them lovingly with you. Be not afraid of them. They offer you salvation. Theirs are the messages of safety, for they see the world as kind. if you send forth only the messengers the Holy Spirit gave you, wanting no messages but theirs, you will see fear no more. The world will be transformed before your sight, cleansed of all guilt, and softly brushed with beauty. The world contains no fear that you laid not upon it, and none you cannot ask love's messengers to remove from it and see it still. The Holy Spirit has given you his messengers to send each other and return to each other and return to each with what love sees. They have been given to replace the hungry dogs of fear you sent instead, and they go forth to signify the end of fear. Love, too, would set a feast before you on a table covered with a spotless cloth, set in a quiet garden where no sound but singing and a softly joyous whispering is ever heard. This is the feast which honors your holy relationship, and at which everyone is welcomed as an honored guest.
Oh, there it is again, the holy relationship. Yep.
And in a holy instant, grace is said by everyone together as they join in gentleness before the table of communion. And I will join you there, as long ago I promised and promise still. For in your new relationship, I am made welcome. And where I am made welcome, there I am.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. Beautiful.
Well, that's the first obstacle to peace, the desire to get rid of it. Peace has to be given a home here in the dream. And you can't have peace while you identify as a body or you identify anyone else as a body. And the miracle is where two or more in the dream are willing to unself the concept of a body and to make the whole relationship's purpose in the forgiveness of what we are not, and to give peace and the Holy Spirit a home here in the dream. And from that holy relationship, peace is nurtured and protected and kept and is allowed to shine forth. And that peace is what lifts the mind up and over these so-called 4 obstacles to peace. You cannot say that the holy relationship is not the means. It is where peace is allowed to be born or to be remembered here in the dream.
Thank you.